Conversations on Co-Production is Expert Link's free monthly meeting where people come along to chat all things co-production with like-minded individuals. These podcast episodes are taken directly from the conversations, so if you like what you hear, come along and join us by signing up via the link below.
Why is it important to recompense or value participants of co-production? Within this area, there isn't any sort of clear guidance, so we have to be really careful when we're talking about sort of things that we're doing, or offering advice or opinions on that there isn't actually anything that states this is what we should be doing. So a lot of our conversation today will be around like our own learnings organisationally and what we feel is the right thing to do.
I like that you've used the words recompense and value, because I think sometimes it could just be seen as just money, but I think there needs to be more than that as well, or like a package that you can offer people to do this kind of work.
As a lived experience person, I think, you've experienced life, probably maybe some more difficulties, or life's a bit harder, or you've got all these added things to it. And I think time is just so valuable. And the fact that you actually choose to share some of what might have been negative things for you, or, really emotional stuff, I think, that time needs to be really, really valued. Because, I just feel, because when you lose people as well, and you realise, illnesses, things like that, and you recognise time is the most precious and most expensive thing you've got, actually.
People need to be recognised as having worth, because one of the experiences for so many people, whether they've been rough sleeping or just really in very bad places, is that they feel completely worthless and treated as worthless. So I think showing a genuine understanding of that worth is really fundamental to everything we do. There is also the question that it's a message in two directions. One direction is to say, you, the person we're asking to participate, have value, have something to bring to the table. But it's also the message to the wider public, where often the feeling of that is underlying there, not necessarily of every individual, but the sense of the feeling of the general public is that, oh, you are worth less, you are sitting down on the floor, so you're down below me, down below, you're just in the way when I'm walking along, those sort of negatives. So I think trying to bring in the positive and communicate that out to the wider public is really important.
It's really important that to recognise that there is a skill associated with providing good quality feedback to help organisations do more better, and also that it takes quite a lot of bravery and confidence to step into that space, and so that kind of recognition for me can come in many forms. But actually, if somebody is skilled at providing feedback, actually that's a great thing to put on CVs and to help you kind of grow as an individual and demonstrate that there's more to you than perhaps meets the eye. And I think for me, the recognition could come in multiple different ways. It could be a certificate of participation that you can then use to kind of share with others to demonstrate the value that you're adding in multiple different ways. But I am keen, as an organisation who needs to do more of this and needs to find ways to recognise people's contributions in multiple different ways, to kind of hear what other people have got to say and the ideas that are around about how we might do more of this and better. And like you say, that kind of the words that you were using to frame it at the beginning, it is all of those things, isn't it? It is about valuing people's time, recognizing, rewarding, it is all of that. And what's right for one individual may not be right for everybody else. And so having a kind of almost a menu maybe of kind of ways that we can recognise people's contributions, I think is possibly something we might need to think about.
So yeah, I think there's lots of things that have, people have already mentioned that are the key things, but for me there's also something that ties in around almost like the sort of culture change within organisations as well, because if we make sure that people's time is being valued and things like that, it just makes that it recognises the importance of that. And it's not good enough to just kind of say to somebody at the last minute, oh, you've had experience of this, can you come and sit in this meeting, which I've seen happen, or to book meetings and then assume that somebody can attend without even asking them or consulting them. So I've had lots of conversations with EBEs who've said, people just assume I have nothing else to do rather than sit around and wait for you to call on my services, which is not true. So I think there's something around that whole valuing that person's input and experience and skills and all of the things that have been said, but it's that whole culture change around what that looks like and what that means to an organisation or to a piece of work or a community or whatever that might be. So for me, it's that valuing is tied up in all of that as well, and important, if that makes sense, hopefully.
I think what has been said here is perfect. I agree with everything, but the last things you said was we need to also think about what we are asking people to do. So I personally don't, I've been doing this for many years now, and I don't want one penny from anybody. What I want to give you is my knowledge, my skills, my experience. What I don't want you to do to me, for me, or with me is ask me all sorts of personal questions, unless you tell me that you have got this condition, that condition, etc. Because I personally do not want you to know anything about me in a way, because it is all very personal and private and confidential. But I'm very happy to participate and give you my skills and my knowledge. So I don't want that money to be connected with, yes, we gave you a drop of money, so come and tell us everything about you. So sorry, but I do agree that a lot of people would like to be compensated. I personally don't want to be.
I think there's something else as well that sort of follows on from that, around the assumption that if somebody's coming into a space to share it's almost like if we're paying them, then they have to share. And I think that's something as well. It's about actually we're inviting people into that space to contribute the same as we would any other person that's coming into that space, for example. And not everybody will want to contribute or feel they have something at that point. So I think what we can't do is sort of get into that place where it's like, well, you're being paid or you're being reimbursed for this, so you must contribute with all of your personal, I think that's absolutely right. What we're doing is it's about bringing the people together, isn't it? It's not about saying, well, you're here, so you need to say something now about what we've asked you to say. Do you know what I mean? There's that element to it as well that can sometimes come in if people are being paid to do things, I guess.
One of the ways we need to look at things is if there's a group of us sitting around a business-like table, whether it's a local council or a local charity or whatever, would we expect to be treated the way, and I'll put this in big inverted commas, we sometimes treat those who are less fortunate? And the point was very well made just now of almost being in a position of, we've got you in the room, you're the lab rat, and I hope that doesn't offend anybody. It's just a way of trying to emphasize the way sometimes people are being treated, and the expectation to be prodded and probed and demanded of anything that person requests. I think it's just showing a complete lack of humanity.
In terms of recompense for people, we support. We've always offered that. And it should be something that's offered to everyone without even really considering it, and then it's up to people whether they want to take that or not. And then I know this sounds a bit of a cop out, and some people may not already be doing this, but anyone who isn't already doing this, one of the best ways to recompense someone is to treat someone like an equal in the room. It is to just be welcome, be welcoming, be open, be warm, and that will instantly help someone and stop them feeling like they're just here to make up the numbers, or here because someone's coerced them into coming to a meeting or event to try and have a say. And really make sure that whatever anyone does say is accounted for, and something happens, some actions happen. That's a fantastic way to recompense.
I think it's very important to consider choice and also setting, like, for example, yes, you can get paid if you want to. Yes, you can share if you want to. Sort of these sort of choices.
The main reason people don't or stop getting involved is because of that lack of feeling that you've really made a difference, that you feel that you've been listened to, and all those. That should be a given.
The huge majority of people I've worked alongside with over kind of several years of doing this, it's been about wanting to be heard, wanting to make the change, being part of that change, and using what's happened to them or to their family members or people they know to feed into that and make the change for others, so that doesn't happen again, or it does if it was positive, for example. So we have these conversations, don't we, about payment and cash and vouchers and all of this kind of stuff, but that's most of the people I've spoken to are kind of like, I don't care about that. That's not what I'm doing it for. I just want to be valued and heard, basically. So yeah, I think it's what people have said before. So
not everybody that wants to give their voice is either retired on a good pension, or unemployed, or on benefits, or available. There are many people that we need to come and give their voice who are working on on sometimes very little money. They can't take a day off and not have that money, or whatever. And I think if we really want to open out access to these patient service user care voice, that is why we need to think about this as much as anything, because you say options are good, but most of the time people are making the option really based on it's too complicated, I'm too worried, back to the DWP, the Department of Work Pension, or it might affect my benefits. Yeah, that is the options aren't options of what I want to do, really. I think the biggest and the best way to get effective and proper co-production is where you build trust, and that's where basically everybody involved in that is drawn together and kept together for some time for a project. Parachuting in patient and public voice carers, service users doesn't work. Equally, it doesn't work when you parachute in staff, who haven't been even trained most of the time, because a lot of the patient and public voice has been trained in co-production. Many of the staff have not. The sort of thing that are expected to do that. So I think it's doing all the things that are needed to create trust, and that really involves investing in people, in staff, as I've just said, but also in those people that provide their voice. It's treating them as, well, not as an employer, but at least give them the same support and benefits that you would be required to give an employer.
It is about trust. It's about having respectful relationships. And, I've worked only a few years doing this sort of stuff. And, our trust, it's like you can have training in certain things as well. And I think that isn't paid. But, involvement, for example, if you're working on a policy or something and you're spending your time, you're reading, you're doing things like that, then, these sort of things, on the other hand, for me, would need to be paid. But things like training and being involved as part of a team is something that I think is very needed as well, to make you kind of just feel in the right place. Almost.
Excellent. Thank you so much. A very interesting conversations going on here. For me, it is, yes, say thank you, give us a little drop to eat and a little drop to drink, I think. I like it, although, as I said, I don't like the money bit of it. But the most important thing I think is, once you've gone through all that, what is the feedback? Can you keep us still involved to say, where did you go? Was there anything else that could have happened? Even for patients, as patients, we are learning too. We don't have all the answers, neither do the professionals, but working together and feeding back to each other, I think it's really nice.
I think what I've taken from today's discussion, and thank you to everyone who has contributed, is that there isn't one answer, is that we need to be thinking about the person as a whole person and holistically, and be very considerate right from before we even start the co-production process to the end, you know, and making sure that people feel supported, they feel valued. And I suppose how that looks varies depending on organisations and individuals. So it's, you know, getting that feedback from people helps you then shape what you do next. So yeah, that's what I've taken sort of to summarise my feelings of how today's discussion's gone.